Alright, so continuing my highlighting of the new light tank lines, this is the RU-251, the Tier 8 German light tank. It's this pretty low profile tank, especially compared to the Awful Panther that comes before it. It goes really fast in a straight line. It's got good acceleration. It does bleed speed a little bit when you turn, not nearly as much as the Awful Panther. So for the most part, you can still use it for active scouting, but sometimes it gets a little bit tricky if you need to make like a U-turn or something. You tend to bleed off a lot of speed. It has a 90 mil gun, which we will talk about in a little bit. And so this is a game on Arctic region. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. And we've done Arctic region before, but we'll talk about a little bit about the strategy. So from this north side, it's still really important to secure this area over here. A lot of people tend to camp back here in this A4, A5 area. You want to make sure that you push up into this sort of B3, C3 area, at least to clear off people, particularly if you're in a really fast tank like the RU-251. So that's what we're going to do, and pretty much what I'm looking for is I'm looking at their team, and I see that they have a Bulldog and a T-71, both relatively quick tanks. Other than that, their next fastest tank is the WZ-120, which is going to take a little bit to get here. So I'm going to go ahead and peek up on this ridge here, and one of the nice things about this ridge is that you can spot any of their slower tanks moving up this one line here. You can also spot down into this ditch over here where I spot this Bulldog into this 4 line. You can also get some pretty good shots in there if they decide to stay there. You just can't stay up in that area though, otherwise you will eventually get shot by somebody. And we have some tanks here behind me, and I'm just kind of waiting for them to catch up a little bit. A lot of times people get scared and stay back here, but if they see you up here for a little bit, they will eventually poke forward. And we have a couple of 9s up on this sniper deck, which is not really what you want to see out of your top tiers, but that always is going to happen at least a little bit in some of these games. And then so right now I can afford to be a little patient, right? We've got a lot of guys still in our base, a lot of guys on this south here. So I'm waiting for people to show up on the map. And you'll see I can get some pretty easy shots on like this Bulldog over here.
It's a trap!
And then I don't want to stay out there too long to tempt fate. We have some guys poking around here. So we see that they have a Ferdinand and a Conqueror over on this side. The Bulldog is still in that general area of the 4-line ditch. And we still have those 2 guys in that B4 area just kind of hanging out. They have now appeared over on the south, which is fine, not too much of a worry. We still got a lot of beef down there, so I'm not too concerned about those guys. And their 1 line is crumbling, so I will just hang out here, I think, and see if I can find that Bulldog again. But I think the Bulldog has run away, because this is a good position to shoot him. The interesting thing about the 90mm on the RU-251 is that the standard AP shells actually travel really slowly, so sometimes switching between the different shells can throw you off. The AP shells and the HE shells are actually HESH shells. They're 105 pen HESH shells, which are somewhat useful, but they both travel really slowly. The heat shells, though, on this gun actually travel much faster, about 40% faster than either the AP or the HESH shells, and that takes some getting used to. The HESH shells on the RU-251 actually travel about as fast as the APCR shells on the T-71 or on the Bulldog, to give you an idea of scale. And like I said, I think it's about 40% faster than the standard AP shells.
It's a trap!
So especially if you're switching between the two, between the AP and the heat, it takes a little while to get used to. And for relativity's sake, the heat shell speed of the RU-251 is about the same as the heat shell speed on like the T-69, the American Tier 8 medium. So that's one of the things that I've noticed about this particular tank that's kind of odd, is that particularly firing standard AP shells, if you're doing it from a distance, you kind of have to get used to the kind of clunky speed, and also switching to the heat, you have to get used to the fact that it's actually going to move much faster than what you normally might think it would. And so we're slowly losing on that southeast over there. and so I want to go see if I can pick it up, but apparently one of their IS-3s came back.
It's a trap!
And then you'll see that all I did there was I just basically auto-aimed and just drove away from his turret. And then, so the rest of these guys are going to be over on this 9-line area over here. So all I want to be able to do is take a look over there. If they were paying attention, they already know that I'm coming over there. You can see this WZ-120 is already scrolling back. So this Tiger sees me as well, or spots me as well. And so I'm not going to try to take these guys on frontally. The nice thing about being in a light tank, a fast tank, is that you can dictate the engagements usually, as long as you plan far enough ahead. So all I have to do is just leave, and I can get out before anybody can really get a good look at me. But at least I've got their attention. They know that I'm there, and they've at least sent a couple of guys back. We still have that Waffle and the JT-88 in the base, but who knows how long that's going to last. Our western push ended up dying to this T-95. And so see how this SU-152 and the A-44 are over to the south of the T-95. It's always good, particularly if you're in a faster tank, to go around to the flank, and you will help out your team significantly. And so all I'm doing here is just driving around to the back of the T-95, who I know is over here. So even if he's facing me, somebody's going to get good shots, right? If he's facing me, the SU-152 or the A-44 can get good shots. If he's facing them, then I'm going to be able to get good shots. In this particular case, he's facing away from me, so it's going to be really easy for me to just own him in the face. And then I always just like to keep moving. There's still an artillery active, and he's either in that K3 area, which is unlikely since the SU-152 went over there, or he's over back in that K1-ish area, which seems more likely, but you never really know. Wasn't watching that SU-152 too closely. The WZ-120 that chased me out from that southeast is still over there. So rather than try to face him frontally across a distance where he can basically shoot into me and I'll have to snipe at him, because he can basically shoot me anywhere. And he's also, the M12 has managed to take out our SU-152, so it's just me against the WZ-120. On the other hand, I can go back and clear up their other guys. The IS-3 just died, but the Tiger is somewhere over there, and our artillery is open, so I make the decision to go back. It's always better to go back in most situations, and let's say probably like 80% of all situations, it's better to go back than it is to continue to push forward, particularly in a tank without much, that's kind of squishy. And that's the other nice thing about this tank, because it does have good acceleration moving in a straight line. It's pretty easy to get places that you need to go, as long as it's not a lot of curvy roads to get there. And so we know the WZ-120 has left and is crossing through the middle, which is fine. And then right there you can see that I underestimate, or overestimate, I guess, the speed of the AP shell, so I ended up lobbing that shell pretty far behind him. Now, if I had switched to heat for that shell, that would have hit him, but also you don't really want to shoot heat into the side of tanks from that sort of range, generally speaking, because a lot of times it'll hit the track and just get eaten. And so we know the WZ-120 is going north, so either he's going to continue going through to our artillery, which he ended up doing, or he's going to come back. So he went north, and so I know that he's got a reasonable amount of health. It's I think around 1,200 health. So I don't want to take on the WZ-120 frontally, so I'd rather just go put on cap pressure and force him to come to me. We have our Tier 9 Waffle headed back. And so it turns out that already was back in K1.
It's a trap!
And then just put on cap pressure, because the WZ-120 hasn't gone on yet. So if the WZ-120, let's just say that he was on the cap, and you weren't entirely convinced that your waffle could handle it, and the GT88 may or may not be here in time, you might want to go back. But in this particular case, it's the easiest way to get this win would be just to cap it out. And so I hope that this sort of highlight has shown that this straightforward speed of the RU-251 allows you to get to places. It allowed us to get to the flank of the T-95. We went all the way to the southeast flank to look at the WZ-120 and the Tiger and the E-75 that were over in our southeast. And again, the speed is nice because, again, you can dictate those sorts of engagements where, oh, the WZ-120 is facing me and he's got a couple big tanks behind him, so I don't want to be a part of that particular engagement, so I'll leave, sort of thing. And just use that speed to your advantage as long as you plan far enough ahead. And so if we look at the stats, it was a pretty easy 2K game. So we ended up doing a lot of damage simply, again, because we were on the flank. We got almost all, if not all, the damage on the T-95. And that's simply from moving around to flanks of people. And it's a really powerful thing that a lot of people don't do, especially in faster tanks. You might as well go around to the flank as long as you have the time to do it. We did a reasonable job of not getting shot by their big tanks. We didn't allow the WZ-120 to shoot us. We could have sat there on that southeast and tried to trade with him. We could have sat, after we killed the T-95, we could have sat there and tried to trade with him. But, if those engagements aren't really to your advantage, then you might as well try to avoid it altogether if you can. And so that's about it. So I hope that was instructive as far as what the RU-251 can do, and thanks for watching.